Z, by the way, Marie, that was okay. But a digital native, I got a 20-year-old, and that's right there that's the first time I hear this term, digital native, and that's exactly my 20-year-old. That's true. She was born with, in that era, and right now that's how she operates. And having a value proposition, what we sell in terms of HR and how do we sell our business, I thought that was a very, very interesting piece. So thank you again. Thank you very much. That was very good. Our next speaker, Dave Luehr, is the founder of Elite Bodyshop Solutions, North American organization dedicated to the success of the independent collision repair. Dave is the co-author of the popular book, The Secrets of America's Greatest Body Shop. So Dave is well-known. Dave is a well-known industry performance and leadership expert, and through his writing and speaking, has inspired an international audience of thousands to improve their business and their lives. So please welcome. Okay. You're going to have to wait just a little bit, Dave. I'm sorry about that. We need to hear the music first. Thank you. Please welcome David Luehr.
Yeah! Can you all hear me okay? Thanks for having me. I want to, first of all, I want to acknowledge CSN for sponsoring me today. Without them, I couldn't have made it. Thank you guys. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate everything CCIF has done for me. Again, my name is Dave Luehr. I am the author of The Secrets of America's Greatest Body Shops and founder of Elite Bodyshop Solutions based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Has anybody ever been to Nashville? Give me a yeehaw. No, don't. That's what they do in Texas. We actually hate that in Tennessee. But if you've ever been to Tennessee, or Nashville in particular, you probably know that we're famous for three things, right? We're famous, obviously we're the world headquarters, the home of country music, right? But we're also known for a delicious caramelly chocolate peanut confection called a Goo Goo Cluster. And then of course we're also famous for hockey. Well, we haven't always been famous for hockey, but last year our Predators had a pretty good run at the Stanley Cup Finals, did they not? That's right. I am a little bit embarrassed to say, however, that most of us know very little about hockey in Nashville, and I'm no exception. So we recently became fans, but before, when I knew I was coming to Canada, I said, man, I got to learn about some hockey, or they're gonna slay me up there. And so I at least figured out what icing was. Finally, I've been watching all these games, and the puck just keeps going, and I literally had to look it up to find out what icing is. It's when the puck goes over a line and then two more lines with nobody touching it. So I really wanted to impress my Canadian friends with my immense hockey knowledge. Thank you for that. My friend Ted recently, I was talking to him. He's a huge Predator fan, and he said, "Boy, did you see our guys? They really took it to them Canadians." And I said, "Ted, you're an idiot. First of all, those aren't our guys. They're just more Canadians wearing our jerseys. PK Subban's from Toronto. That's right. They're on loan from Canada. Anyway, just trying to have a little fun, guys." So when the book was first launched last spring, a lot of people heard me say that right now is the greatest time in history to be in the collision repair business. And then people look at me like I had 3 heads. But then I added, but only for those with the right mindset. Right? For those with the right mindset, right now is a fantastic time to be in the collision repair business. And so the question you might ask is, well, what's the right mindset? To begin with, at the most fundamental level, for us to be successful at anything, we've got to have a belief in our ability to succeed. It's got to start there. And then we've got to be able to challenge all the nonsense that people tell us, things that push us off into the victim zone, as I like to call it. But we also need to be able to challenge our own truths. And I know that's uncomfortable for some of us. A lot of the things that we believe today are things that we've learned over many, many years from people that we love quite often. You know, but it's a changing world that we live in. And if you don't challenge your truths, you know, we're not going to be able to attack today's problems using yesterday's thinking. Am I right? So we've got to take, the other thing about having the right mindset is we've got to be willing to take personal responsibility for the situation that we're in right now. You know, when I wrote this book, I talked to, sadly, many shops, not just in the U.S., but all over the world, and a lot of them tend to want to place blame on everybody but themselves. And if you want to survive and thrive in the future, you've got to take full accountability for where you're at right now and where you're going. It's up to us, guys, right? And we got to look at today's challenges as opportunities. That's the other thing that's important to know, right? You know, the people that are really getting, the people that were featured in the Secrets of America's Greatest Body Shops, every one of them has an amazing attitude, right? You know, regardless of the cards that were dealt, these successful individuals and teams and businesses have figured out how to play those cards. Attitude is absolutely essential, right? So I'm going to give you a quick story about how the book came about. And I've been in this, I'm 52 now, I think, and I've been in the business since I was 15 years old. And I started out like many of you probably did, behind a broom, sweeping up the body shop. I was a painter for quite a few years, and I started my first collision repair business in 1989 with an initial investment of $100 and a paint gun. That was it. Somebody rented me a shack, and I was in business. And over the years, I've learned a lot. And you know, fast forward many years, I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, working for a very, very successful, independently owned MSO group there. And my role in the organization, I was called the Lean Process Manager. And so I had taken this organization that had been in business since 1967 and taken them through this massive lean overhaul. And in 2012, on a sunny day in February, we got a call that changed my life forever. The company that I'd put all this effort into had been acquired by a big consolidator. I watched as they literally took all the systems and everything that I'd worked so hard on, thrown into giant dumpsters. And by Monday morning, we were no longer this organization. And I'll admit, for a while, I was in the victim zone. But I was eventually able to kind of reframe how I thought about it, and I actually learned a lot about this situation. Many of the things that I teach at Elite Body Shop Solutions and the things that I share in the book are things that I learned through those experiences. It was, you know, consolidation is just a reality of what we're going through, and it's not just in the U.S. or Canada. And frankly, I think anybody that builds a fantastic business model deserves to grow, right? I don't have anything against it. But I also think that as independent collision repairers, we can learn a lot from some of the things that they do, right? And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But a lot of people were just stuck in the victim mode. You know, Nashville, where I lived, quickly became completely consolidated. And then I looked to some other markets like Denver, Colorado, that had been heavily consolidated. And I talked to people that they were also stuck in the victim's mindset. They think, I can't survive. I got to sell. I got to get out while I still can. But then something great happened. I started to discover individuals that, instead of becoming victims, became victors. They were able to see the opportunities in the consolidation, right? And not only were they successful, they're absolutely crushing it in their markets. And I said, I got to find out what these guys are doing. Because if I can find out what these guys are doing compared to what these guys over here that are complaining about everything is, I could create something very valuable for my friends in the independent collision repair business. It was that moment that inspired me to create my company to help independent collision repairers discover their own unlimited potential. And that's what the book was all about. So these are the 6 secrets. We call them secrets because it helps sell books. If I called them habits, everybody think that sounds too much like work. Right? Okay. So the first secret, I think, is probably, well, they're all important, but this one's absolutely critical. Call it busting old beliefs. You know, it wasn't that many hundred years ago when everybody thought the world was flat. In fact, you'd be stoned to death if you insinuated that it was round. And sadly, you know, not too many years later, some people's belief systems haven't really evolved much past that, right? So one of the commonalities between every one of the people that are featured in my book are always questioning old beliefs, right? And seeing how they apply it. This is absolutely critical. For example, you know, how many of you guys still bring all the cars in on Monday because it's going to help your cycle time? Anybody? Okay, I know we're in Canada now, you're a little bit more developed, but there's a lot of shops that still bring a lot of cars in on Monday. You know, how about the notion that I can't survive if I'm an independent collision repairer? Is that an old belief? Right? There's a lot of amazing things here. So, when you work, especially with some of the older businesses like I do, you get the old guy that owns it, and sometimes they want to dig their heels in. So I know what's made me successful. I've been doing this for 40 years. You know, this is the formula for success. And why wouldn't it work now? Well, because that was then. So what I'm seeing all over, not just America, but all over the world, is these people that won't give up the things that made them successful to reinvent themselves, right? Because sometimes you got to give up some of the good to get to the great, right? And these bad beliefs can lead you into what I call the victim zone. This is where everybody gets together and they badmouth the insurance industry and they blame all their circumstances on everybody but the person that they shave with in the morning. That's dangerous. And they use them as a crutch not to do the right things to move their business to the next level. And it certainly, when you don't challenge your beliefs, you often work hard on what I call the wrong things, right? When you know, grandfather used to say, you know, if you just work hard enough, you'll be successful, Dave. Grandfather was wrong. Sorry, grandfather. It's when you work hard on the right things that you can be successful, right? I see an awful lot of people in our industry. Nobody works harder than the fine folks in our industry. In the collision repair industry, we work hard. What I'd like to challenge you to do is always be working hard on the right things. My good friend John Parker, who's an innovator from the UK, it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Trouble with collision repairs is they spend a lot of time trying to do the wrong things righter. Right? A good example of this is instead of trying to do a better job at writing a supplement, why not just eliminate the supplement? You know, it's that kind of thinking, right? I get excited about this. I could go on all day about it. So before I move on, I was encouraged by the CCIF board that I needed to be careful using any brand names. So a lot of the, I'm not going to tell you the names of the shops because I don't want to get in trouble with the censorship committee. Just kidding, guys. So I want you to meet my friend Dan Stander. Dan Stander has a shop that will go unnamed outside of Denver, Colorado. And this man is an inspiration. He was literally had consolidators all around his shop. Within a 5-mile radius, he had all the big four, and he was scared. But he made a decision to reinvent his business, to focus on the customer experience, and as a result of that, he's crushing it, man. He's absolutely crushing it. And he's had some help along the way. He knew who to reach out to. But guys like Dan Stander continue to be an inspiration to me. Secret 2. So in the U.S., 90% of small businesses are what they call family-owned businesses. And a family-owned business is defined by an organization that has 2 or more people that are in the family working in the business, right? So is anybody here in a family-owned business? Come on, let's get those hands up there. So the problem with family-owned businesses, it's actually a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that I've seen family-owned businesses that are just amazing when they know how to get along. That translates into a fantastic customer experience, am I right? I mean, who wouldn't want to have that nice local feel? But I've also seen the opposite. You know, if you're a dysfunctional family and you bring that crap to work, you know, that can be a real problem too. And there's a lot of generational differences between one generation to the next in, you know, leadership, for example. You know, what's the right way to lead people? Well, because Dad, you know, he learned his leadership skills from the industrial age, right? This is how we do it, with an iron fist, right? And the next generation doesn't always see eye to eye with dear old Dad. And there's a huge disparity on how things need to be done. And I've seen so many businesses sell out because of this friction. And it doesn't have to be that way. You've got to learn how to communicate, right? Communicate. It's not that hard. Actually, it is hard. But so I've got another friend that I'm going to show you here in a minute. But you know, the son is always complaining that Dad has retired, passed the business along to him, but Dad won't go away. He's always there meddling in everything, right? And I get it. I mean, this is like his baby. It's his baby, but do you realize what kind of damage you can do to a business when you fly in like a seagull, you know, and take a crap all over everything and then leave and then go play golf? You know, that's a problem. So that's why I say don't meddle. Once you're out, right? You know, be there, be an advisor, but just be cognizant of how you do that. And one of the best books I've ever read, you can apply it to business, your personal life, your marriage, how to talk to your teenagers. It's called Crucial Conversations. And I hope everybody goes out and gets a copy of that. It'll change your life. And I'm not kidding. So this is my very good friend Bruce and Chris King. The name of their business is, almost caught me, right? Is similar to their last name, but with the word collision center added to it. And they've got two very, very successful locations in Plymouth and Pembroke, Massachusetts. They were able to overcome many of the challenges that I'm talking about. They figured out how to communicate through the differences in their value systems. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. Bruce successfully set up his businesses so that it was more turnkey. So when he did turn it over to his family, he didn't have to worry about it being successful or not. He set it up. He set his kids up for success, is what he did, and he had the foresight to create an exit strategy long before he got out. That's another big thing that I see a huge mistake being made all the time. Is we're having a fire sale on a body shop because now I'm 72 years old and I don't think my kid can run it. I'm out, right? And succession planning has got to be something that's part of the family business, and it's something that you need to talk about all the time. Secret 3. When you think back, if you've been in the business as long as I have, and I know a lot of you have, you might remember that most of us were technicians, were we not? Right? I was a painter. I thought I knew more than my boss, so I'm going to go out and start a business. And I didn't have any skills as a leader or as a businessman. I was a painter, for crying out loud. So what we did in those days was we would rent some space, and it's kind of like a hair salon, right? You rent space to entrepreneurs. So the body men were entrepreneurs, right? And you'd essentially rent each of them a stall, and then you would split the money with them 50-50. That's how the whole commission system got started. And because we did that, we didn't have to deal with all the ugly leadership stuff. We don't have to learn that because they're their own boss. Now, if you think about what's happened in the last 10, 15 years, many of us are still trying to embrace that old broken model instead of creating a systems-driven business, right? Something that anybody with some training could do a decent job of running it, right? I'm not, that's what Bruce and Chris King did. They developed a lean operating model that was so turnkey that Chris doesn't have any issue running it. They just make sure everybody follows the process. One of the things that I am absolutely in awe of is how a lot of the big consolidator companies utilize systems, right? They're masters at it. It's not just the system that's important, it's how you audit that system and provide real-time feedback to your team on whether they're living up to the standards or not. That's why I think they do such a great job at that. So they make sure that, first of all, you understand the standards because they do a lot of training, and then they follow it up with auditing and then coaching to bring them back up to speed where there's a deficit. I'm sure everybody in the room's read E-Myth. Has anybody read E-Myth? Fantastic, fantastic. If you haven't, it's a great read for guys like me. It's probably the second best business book ever written. So, yeah, which one's first? Hold that up. Just kidding. So this is my dear friend Randy Sadler. Randy Sadler works at a dealership in Grand Forks, North Dakota. They sell 3 different brands that will remain unnamed. And his boss, Wes Rydell, the owner of this dealership, has always been very process-driven. In fact, he was a big-time student of theory of constraints. And so Randy was a service writer working in the service department, obviously. And Mr. Rydell said, Randy, I think you're a good guy. How would you like to become the body shop manager? He's like, crap, I don't know anything about the body shop business. But because they had developed such fantastic systems in there, 12 years ago today, that's probably one of the finest operating models I've ever seen. And Randy's one of the nicest guys, and he'd love to talk to you. But you'll have to see me in private, and I'll get you his phone number later. They also incorporate a lot of very modern technology, especially around like gas catalytic drying and things of that nature. They produce between 25 and 30 vehicles a day using this system, with an average cycle time of just under between 4 and 5 days. Not bad, huh? So when people ask me, they say, Dave, what's the one thing I can do to differentiate myself and really have a big advantage in my market? And it's probably the most overlooked thing, the thing that we've been taught for years: take care of the customer. Many of us have become so process-driven that sometimes we forget about our customer. And the customer starts to feel as though they've been processed. Have you ever been to a place like that? I was at a McDonald's a few months ago, and I've always been in awe of their processes, but the first person in the window took my money, and then I drove down to the next window. The lady was holding my bag out the window and wouldn't even look me in the eye. I drove away feeling processed. Customer experience is the biggest thing that you can do to differentiate your business over anything else. I'm actually a big fan, despite what some people think, of some of the direct repair programs. I think that they can actually enhance the customer experience. It makes it easier for the consumer, right? But the problem is that so many of us have fallen into the trap of just becoming order takers. If you knew that every customer had a potential value of $122,000 between what they can bring and what they can recommend, wouldn't you take care of them a little differently? So the other thing that I think is important for you to understand is I like CSI scores and NPS, but it doesn't tell the whole story, right? I like it because it gives you immediate feedback on what your customers are thinking. I love that. But what it doesn't measure is the emotional factors that are going to determine whether they're actually going to become a raving fan or not. There's only one company I know of that actually measures that. They're a research company based out of Chicago, Illinois. And some of the facts that they've shared with me is astonishing, right? So you'll see we have, this is called the customer experience funnel. So in order for you guys to take a customer and make them into a raving fan, they've got to experience these different levels of the funnel. They've got to experience confidence. So if a customer shows up at your body shop and you're fumbling around looking for their paperwork and you say, "What was your name again, ma'am?" "Oh boy, I'm not sure we had you on the schedule for today." That's not instilling a lot of confidence. That, as it turns out, is extremely important, right? Integrity. Integrity means, did we deliver what we promised? And a lot of us miss the boat on that too. Are we proactively updating our customers every couple days at least, right? If we promised to touch up that little spot on the rear bumper, right? And yet we did $4,000 worth of repairs to the front end. When they get out of their rental car and go up to the car, what do they look at first? Any guesses? They walk right to that chip every time, don't they? And I'm not even sure they realize that they do that. But if you didn't touch that up, it doesn't matter what a great job you did on the front end. The integrity's shot. There are systems that you can put in place to help with with integrity, but you've also got to show pride. Pride is where you go out to the car, instead of just handing them the keys over the counter and say, here's your car, it's parked out here, thank you very much, goodbye. You say, I want to go out and explain my warranty to you and make sure you don't have any questions, and actually walk around the car with the customer there present, showing pride, saying, this is our warranty, man, and we guarantee our repairs for as long as you own this vehicle. We're here for you, man, That shows pride in what we do. And passion. If you do these things right, you will have passionate, engaged customers that will actually go out and tell friends and family about you. Because even if they gave you a 100% on your CSI survey, even if they checked the little box that says "will refer," that doesn't necessarily mean they will. Unless you've taken them through this customer experience funnel first. I hope you find this helpful. My friend Tom Tracy from Lincoln, Nebraska, he's got 2 very, very successful shops. And what I like about Tom is he's a giver, man. He gives to the community. And it just seems like people that give to their community without expecting anything back are the ones that seem to get most back. And, they do cool things like give a car away to a needy family every Christmas, and the media shows up, and all the employees get involved. And I like what Tom says. He says, when marketing a body shop, what you're really selling is trust. He understands that advertising can be a huge waste of money unless you understand your brand first and what it's saying to the community. So there's a lot of conversation in the industry right now about the shortage of technicians, right? I mean, that's what we hear about. That's what we deal with every day. And I think it's important that we also have a discussion about how do we serve the employees that we already have? Is our business something that somebody would actually want to, why would they want to come to work at your business? You heard all the statistics about millennials. Do they want to come to work in a dirty, grungy body shop in exchange for a buck? Probably not. We have to take some personal responsibility for the technician or the employee shortage ourselves, right? I know this sounds like a little tough love, but we're contributing to the problem by not asking ourselves, what did they want? What are they looking for? Industrial age leadership versus the modern servant leadership. There's a young man named Gabe that presented up here a little bit ago. And I'm so proud. Are you in the house, Gabe? I don't know where you're at, man, but you're the man, brother, because you don't need a title to be a leader. That kid is a leader. Am I right? Come on. What people really want is they want to work for something that's bigger than themselves. Something cool, man, something with meaning. People don't want to just show up in exchange for a buck anymore. The money's important. I'd rather be wealthy than not, trust me. But it's more than that. It's way more than just the money. And we build these bonus systems, that are supposed to motivate people, and they just don't work anymore, man. So lead with why. I learned the whole why thing from Simon Sinek, who always talks about start with why. Big fan of his work. And, so you got to understand what your why is. Why do you do what you do? Are you in business to wrench on a car in exchange for a buck? Or is there something a little more noble than that? The people that are really knocking it out of the park, the people in the book, they're here to fix people's lives, man. you know? And we want to make sure that we're getting the right people and we're getting them on the right seats of the bus. You know, we do that sometimes using science through personality or talent assessments. I'm a big believer in those. You know, like I said, Gabe, you know, over here, he gets this. Leadership is a privilege for those who wish to serve, not to be served. This is one of the hardest things for us to comprehend as, you know, those of us that learned our leadership skills from industrial age mentors, right? It takes a lot more guts. I mean, servant leadership sounds kind of wussy, doesn't it? It's not. It takes a lot more guts to be a servant leader than it does to be an old iron-fisted leader. I mean, look at Gandhi, right? That guy had no power, but he was powerful. You know, do I dare mention Jesus Christ? Pretty powerful guy there. He had no power, but he was extremely powerful, right? This is my man, Tony Adams from Shawnee, Kansas. He's got a fantastic business up there. He's a collision repair shop and a mechanical shop. It wasn't that many years ago that Tony was really struggling. I mean, I'm talking about depressed struggling. His entire team was completely unengaged. He would ask people to do things and they never would, ready to throw his hands up. A good friend suggested to Tony that he go out and get a leadership coach. And he didn't do it. It took him almost a year to finally pick up the phone. But when he got a leadership coach, it changed his life and his business to the point where I'm proud to have him as a friend and as a contributor in the Secrets of America's Greatest Body Shops. Right? He says, the biggest pill I had to swallow was my ego. It wasn't my people who were the problem, it was me. Right? He was able to look himself in the mirror and take personal responsibility for where he was at. Love that. That's his business. His vision is to make our community a better place by getting our customers back to their life, right? Back to their life as quickly as possible, knowing that we must make a difference in their day and adding simplicity and trust back into their vehicle repairs. This isn't just a slogan on the wall, folks. This is how they operate every day. This is their lives. Secret number 6, guys. This is one of my favorites. Ever since I read Think and Grow Rich as a young 20-something-year-old, I've never forgotten about the principle of the mastermind group. And guys, you are in one right now. CCIF is doing some astonishing things for this industry. It's the power that comes when you're able to step out of your bubble and learn from other people. It gives you an amazing opportunity to, you know, whether it's a group like this or a franchise opportunity. I just think there's an amazing power in these type of associations. With one word of caution, however, there are pity parties. I've been to associations that didn't want to do anything but get together and bitch and whine about how tough everything is. You might want to avoid those because they're not helping you. So this man really needs no introduction, am I right? Mr. Dana Alexander. I had the pleasure to spend a little bit of time with Dana and his daughter Shelly, who is the operations manager at their business that will go unnamed. Just kidding. Come on, that was funny. This man epitomizes the power of peer groups and has for many years. He was first introduced to the power of a peer group in the old ARMS days. And I can say ARMS without saying the big company that makes tape before the ARMS thing. But he's been involved, you know, in the industry. And by God, anybody that's met Dana, you know, has experienced the power of the peer group himself, because he gives to this more than he even takes back. You know, I like what he says. Advice is always just a phone call away. That's a great feeling, isn't it? Anyway, it's good to meet you, Dana and Shelley. Fantastic job you guys are doing in Fredericton. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up by talking a little bit about my thoughts on technology. You know, people see me as an industry expert, so obviously they're always asking me, well, Dave, what's the future going to be like for us? And I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, there's some assumptions I can make, right? But I'm also a little bit biased. I'm a car guy, man. I don't want a car that drives for me, right? But I know this stuff is reality. You know, we've got all this technology on these vehicles that are doing everything possible to keep you from crashing, but then ironically, we've got technology causing all the distractions, so the number of crashes hasn't really gone down much. You know, and OEM certification, that is definitely a part of our future because it's a part of our present as well. And I really like the direction that we're going. There's other countries that have been doing that for years. Glad to see it, right? So, you know, clearly, as a result of technology and everything changing, there is someday going to be an oversurplus of shops, right? But again, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this technology. I was in San Francisco going up to visit a shop in the Sonoma area, and I had rented a car. It was can't say the brand, but it was a car that I rented from San Francisco, and I'm going 80 miles an hour up the freeway, and I'm eating a cheeseburger, and then my wife calls. So now I got the phone in one hand and the cheeseburger in the other hand, and I'm trying to steer with my legs, right? And without really noticing, I just like barely drifted over the line. The car all of a sudden got autonomous on me, ripped the steering wheel out of my knees, and drifted me across 2 more lines. Yeah, and I'm like crapping myself. So I was kind of pissed off that this car thought it was a better driver than me. But, you know, in retrospect, I'm lucky I didn't run into anybody. And it also turns out I may have caused a bit of an icing infraction by crossing over all those lines. So I'm lucky I didn't get pulled over by the California Highway Patrol. Impressive, right? So let me finish this up by saying, look within the challenges that we're faced for all the amazing opportunities that exist, because they're there, right? The people that are featured in the book, many of the people I've met in this room, right now is a great time to be in the collision repair business. And whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right, right? So who here thinks they're going to survive in the future? Come on, give me an I do. Come on, one more time. Who's going to thrive in the future? Give me an I do. Come on. That's right. One more time. Thank you, guys. My name's Dave Luehr, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much. Thank you, my friend.
Very good.